Okay, we're going to begin this morning by looking at a chart that will help us chart our pathway to promise. It's a chart that looks at and helps you to examine where you are, and in a way that you can better understand, are the areas of your life being driven mostly by problems that you face, or are the areas in your life being driven by your purpose as you understand it, or are the areas in your life being driven by your greatest potential, your promise? So, and this chart is provided for you in your packet, but I've identified the fact that there are three general areas that tend to drive people: problems, purpose, or promise. And it goes like this to give you an even more thorough understanding. For example, people who are driven by their problems tend to be stagnant. People driven by their purpose tend to be static in nature, in the sense that once their purpose is achieved, once they understand what their purpose is, there's a tendency towards complacency, where they sit back and say, okay, I understand why on earth, or what on earth I'm here to do. I understand my meaning, I understand my purpose, and they tend to rest in that. But people who are driven by promise, they are more dynamic in nature. So we've gone from being stagnant to static in nature to being dynamic in nature. And here we have a continuous quest for your highest and your best. That's what promise-driven people are. They're driven by this urge, this quest to do their very best, to be as helpful as possible to as many people as possible. Tends to be the thing that characterizes people who are driven by their promise. Another example: people driven by their problems, there's no change in them. They are today where they were 2 years ago. People driven by their purpose, you can see a change in themselves. They change. They are more interested and interesting, because they kind of understand now what their purpose in life is, what on earth they are here to do. And that can make somebody more interesting, because it gives meaning to what it is they do, and they approach it with more energy. But then people who are driven by their promise, they seek to change the world. So people go from no change, they're the same today as they were 2-3 years ago, to change in themselves, to people who are constantly seeking to change the world, to make the world a better place, not only for themselves and their families, but for others as well. And we can give another example. People driven by their problems tend to be rather lazy and lackadaisical. People driven by their purpose can be quite energetic. People driven by their promise are always enthusiastic. And I want you to see the difference between energy and enthusiasm. They are obviously very much related, because there is energy in enthusiasm. But the word enthusiasm, if you break it down, En means full of, and Thus comes from the Greek, which is theo, for God. So that people who are full of God, full of the Creator, full of the universe, are always trying to make things better for everybody. Now we can let's look at another example. People who are driven by their problems tend to be quite weak and complain a lot, and are quite self-centered. People driven by their purpose, they exhibit strength, and they can be quite persistent, and they can be even self-reliant, if you will, and self-oriented. But people driven by their promise, they tend to always appear to be, and frankly pretty much are. They're strong, they're bold, they are selfless, they are other-centered, and they are working on this dream or this vision. So I want you to take a look at the chart, and you'll be able to see for yourself there are a host of examples that describe the difference between people being driven by problems versus people being driven by their purpose versus people being driven by their promise. And see where you are in areas of your life. For you may be in different at different points in different areas, and so but this chart will help you chart your pathway to promise. You'll benefit from taking a detailed look at it and spending some time reflecting on it and being honest and transparent with yourself, and you'll notice the difference as you try to chart your way to the highest level of living, which is being promise driven.